My biological father is not a good person. One story that my mom told me about him was how she came home from work early one day and found him in bed with another woman just 6 months after they got married. She started yelling, what the hell are you doing in my bed? He's my husband, get the fuck out of my house. So the girl looked at my dad and just said, oh my God, I didn't know, I'm so sorry. She got dressed and she left. And my dad, as soon as the girl left, beat my mom up and just said, don't ever do anything like that again. In fact, we're gonna go to that girl's house and you're gonna tell that girl and you're gonna tell her mother that we're not really married. You're gonna fix this. I don't know why, I don't know what that girl meant to my dad. I don't know who that girl was. I don't know if he was seeing her before my mom. I don't know anything about her other than my dad beat the shit out of my mom and then made my mom go to the girl's mother and say that that's not really my husband. I remember 2 instances with my dad. I don't remember him living with us. I don't remember anything else about him but these 2 incidents. One, I was 3-ish. I was in the back seat of the car with my brother. I remember he was with one of his brothers, my uncle. They drove somewhere, got out of the car, and went wherever they were going. And when they were coming back, he must have been gone for a really long time, because when he came back, I rolled down the passenger window and stuck my head out the window and said, Daddy, Daddy, where have you been? And I was just so happy to see him. And I remember like putting my hands out for him to like pick me up and carry me. But instead, he just slapped me really hard and said, get your ass in that car. So one of the only memories I have of my dad is of him slapping me in the face at the age of 3, like really hard. Another instance I remember is being at my Nina's house. My mom was crying really hard, and I just remember my Nina calling me from the backyard. And I sat down on the couch. I remember just sitting there. I was just like, well, what's going on? You know, just happy. And I remember my mom holding my hand, and I remember her saying, I have to tell you something. And she said, I just want you to know that your daddy and I are getting a divorce, and it doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. It doesn't mean that I don't love you. We're just not gonna live together anymore. I just remember her saying, well, why are you crying? And she just said, well, I just wanna make sure that you're okay. I feel bad that I just don't want you to think I'm taking your daddy away from you. You can see him whenever you want to see him, but he and I just aren't going to live together anymore. And my reaction was, okay, can I go outside and play? I must have seen a lot of stuff go on between them in 4 years, but it must have been so traumatic that I just don't remember it. I honestly don't remember any aspect of my father living with us. That was that. They got a divorce, and then I remember he had visitation rights. So the next instance I remember is we were driving down the street, downtown San Jose, and we were driving by Der Wiener Schnitzel. There was a girl, a young girl. She definitely wasn't older than 25, so she could have been 17, 18, or 19. And I just remember my dad like blowing her a kiss, but just doing like this. And I just remember looking at him, like it was just so strange to me that my dad was like reacting to another woman on the street. And I knew it was a kiss that he did, but he tried to play it off by like pretending he was picking something out of his teeth, like after that. So, but I knew he was checking out that woman. So I had the memory of my dad slapping me, a memory of my dad like picking up on some like young, beautiful woman walking down the street. Aside from that, just hearing stories about how he used to beat my mom, just no matter what she did, she couldn't do anything right. And I used to always say, but Mom, you've got 9 brothers. Why didn't you ever tell any of them that he was hitting you? And she would always say, because he had 12 brothers, and the last thing I wanted was for my Mexican brothers and his black brothers to start a war. And even though his brothers loved me and they loved you, family sticks together, and I just never wanted there to be a fight. I didn't want my brothers to get hurt over my decision to marry him. And I remember saying, well, what gave you the courage to just leave? At what point did you decide you weren't going to take it anymore? She said, he used to always tell me if I ever leave, he was going to kill me. So what was the breaking point? And she just said he got put in jail for a year or 2 years. As soon as I knew he was going to be gone, that's when I just filed the papers, and I just said, it's better for me to leave. If he kills me, he's gonna have to kill me, but I'm not gonna take this anymore. And she just said for 4 years, it was just every single day I got beaten for something, that whether it was something minor that I did, where dinner wasn't ready when he walked through the door, or I said something wrong, or I was listening to the wrong music. She loved the Beatles, and my dad was so jealous that she had all these Beatles memorabilia that he just burned it or threw it away or broke it, but he just got rid of everything that meant anything to her. I don't feel bad for not having any feelings towards him. After they divorced, my mom tried to make sure that he was a part of our lives, but he would always call and make appointments to see us. He would always get me on the phone and say, I'm coming to get you and your brother at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, so have your stuff ready, we're gonna go to Disneyland, or have your stuff ready, we're gonna go buy bikes, or just all of these promises. Every time he would call, I would have my bag, my brother's bag, and we would sit on that porch, and he would just never show up. I begged, I just said, if he just comes one time, I'm going to run away and I'm gonna live with him, because I hated my stepfather so much that I would rather be with him than be with my stepdad. I would just cry every single time, and I would fall for it every single time. He would say, I'm sorry I didn't pick you up, and my mom would yell at him before we got on the phone, don't make promises. If you're not gonna pick them up, don't tell them you're gonna pick them up. Just call them and see how they're doing, but don't break their hearts like this. And we would get on the phone and he would do it all over again. I'm so sorry, something came up, but I'm gonna be there next weekend for sure. So there I was. I'd get up, get dressed, comb my hair so that he would like how I looked, and I'd be sitting outside just waiting on the porch. And my mom would say, he's not coming, and I would just sit there and say, yes he is, he said he was coming, he promised he was coming, and he just would not come, and I just wish he would, because if he had just come, I would have turned out so differently. Like, my life would be so different right now if I didn't have to grow up with my stepdad. I hate him, I hate my dad, I hate my stepdad, it takes everything in me not to say that I hate my mom, but I can't hate my mom because she was so young, she didn't know. I remember when I joined the Air Force when I was 18. I was so proud, and I remember my brother Shannon saying to me, I saw our dad downtown. I said, and he recognized you and he talked to you? And my brother was like, yeah, he's really cool. He wants to see all of us. He wants to see you. And I was just like, yeah, right. I don't ever want to see him. He treated mom like crap. He treated us like crap. He just would lie to us all the time. So why did you even talk to him? I just remember Shannon saying, you gotta just forgive and let bygones be bygones. And I just said, I will never forgive him for what he did to mom. Never. He's just dead to me. I guess I was curious, but at the same time just angry at him, and just, if I never saw him again, I'd be fine with it. And if I saw him on the street, there's no way I would recognize him. So I don't know how my younger brother Shannon could recognize him. Shannon said he actually asked about you, he wants to see you, and so here's his number, just call him if you want to call him. It was maybe a week before I was going to leave for basic training. I called the number. I would dial 6 numbers and hang up, because I kept saying, what am I going to say to him? Why am I calling him? He should be begging to talk to me. I'm going to be someone. I'm going to be something. I'm going to make something of myself. He's going to beg to come back into my life. I'm not going to beg him to accept me. I don't need him in my life anymore. I'm 18. I don't need a dad. But of course inside, it's just like, I just want a dad. I just want to call someone dad. Like, I think every girl should be able to have a man in her life that she can look up to and just like not feel disappointment. it just seemed like if I called him, then it would make him feel like I needed him, and the last thing I wanted him to ever feel was me needing him, because I didn't want to give him the power of rejecting me or making me promises and then not showing up again. But whatever curiosity was in me, I just kept dialing 6 numbers and hanging up, and then finally I dialed the 7th number. Somebody, it was like the Salvation Army. I don't know if he was staying there. I don't know if he was working there. All I know is that someone from the Salvation Army answered, and I asked, "Hi, may I speak with Jimmy Wilkins?" And the person said, "Sure, hold on a moment. May I ask who's calling?" And I just said, "His daughter." As far as it didn't even dawn on me to even think that he might have another daughter. So he gets on the phone and he's like, "Malika?" And I was just like, "Who?" And he's just like, "Michelle?" And I said, "No, this is YaVaughnie Wilkins. I'm calling for Jimmy Wilkins." And he was like, "Oh, YaVaughnie, how are you?" And so I was quiet because I was just like, "Well, who are these other people?" And he just said, I thought you were one of your I thought it was one of your sisters." And I just remember saying, "A sister? I don't have a sister." And he said, "You do have a sister, and you should see them. They're really pretty, and they look just like you, and one plays baseball, and one does this, and one does that." And I just remember like feeling like, who the hell does this guy think he is? He's actually telling me about my sisters, so that means he knows about them. He's a part of their lives, but he couldn't be a part of my life. I was just got angry all over again, just pissed. I remember him saying, "So how are you? What are you up to? How old are you?" And just the questions he was asking were just so generic. How about not asking me questions? How about just telling me how sorry you are? How about telling me why you beat my mom? How about telling me why you slapped me across the face at 3? How about telling me why you left me in a house with a stepfather who abused me, my brothers, and my mom? How about telling me something worth me listening to, instead of you asking me how I'm doing and asking me if I want to meet these sisters of mine? I remember saying, "Well, I'm about to graduate high school and I'm joining the Air Force." And I remember he was quiet on the other line, so I just kept talking. I said, "I want to be just like my Auntie Vicky. She's in the Air Force and I want to be just like her. I want to go places. I just want to leave California." And he said, "Oh, you joined the military, huh? There was no pride in his voice. There was nothing in there was no encouragement in his voice. It was kind of like, "Oh, that's what you're doing?" As if he were doing something better, or one of his other kids were doing something greater than me. And I just said, "Okay, well, I just wanted to say hi, talk to you some other time." And I hung up. And I just said that was worthless. And now I wish that I had not made that call, but for sure, I never have to see him again. I got nothing out of that conversation other than anger and frustration. And I just felt like, that's it. I don't ever have to reach out to him again. I just felt like I don't have a dad and I need to just get over it. So I'm never gonna get to call anyone daddy, and my dad's not gonna walk me down the aisle because I don't have one. I would say that probably in my early adult life, how I dealt with men was a direct effect on my relationship with my biological dad, and probably to some extent my stepfather. When I was younger, I was angrier, and I just remember the attitude that I had was, I don't need anyone, and the second somebody does something to piss me off, I'm out the door. I'm not gonna beg any man to love me. I'm not gonna be like what I think my mom was. I think my mom needed to have a man around. I think because she was young and single with 3 kids, she needed to have my stepfather because he was an income. His income mattered to our household. And also he was this musician that always talked about becoming famous, always talked about making it big. And while all of his other friends were very well-known, well-respected musicians and very successful, he never was. And I think my mom stayed with him because she needed the money and she was waiting for him to become famous. And I was not gonna live my life that way. In my young adult dating life, I didn't put up with shit from men. I left, and if somebody yelled at me, I yelled at them back. I never let anyone control me. My relationship with both my biological and stepfather definitely affected me. It has shaped my life, obviously. They're the role models, they're the people that I learned from. I chose not to want anything like them. I knew that seeing them, I wanted something completely different. Well, I don't feel abandoned because I had a freaking amazing family. My mom's side of the family was everything to me. My Uncle Tony, my Uncle Mike, my Uncle Carl, my Aunt Victoria, my Aunt Sandra. When I was growing up, these people raised me. And when I wasn't happy at home, all I had to do was call Uncle Tony and say, do you need a babysitter? Or if I would call Auntie Vicky and say, can I come and spend the night with you? And I would go with Auntie Vicky. For dinner, we would have chocolate chip cookies and milk and sunflower seeds. And for breakfast, we'd have chocolate cake. And when I would want to go to my Nana's house, she would make fresh tortillas, she would make fried pork chops, TV dinners. I just felt so loved at every one of my mother's brothers and sisters' home. My biological dad was a huge disappointment to me growing up, but I was not lacking in love. I may have been wanting a daddy or a dad figure, but no, I never felt abandoned. Never, never, never.